He's on the Titanic, and the most he can do is shuffle the deck chairs around the Titanic as it is sinking.
You're quite a lucky person. You should place bets, more bets on Poly Market because everything seems to be happening the way you like envisioned it.
All right, everybody, welcome back to yet another episode of Zillennial Money. And you might be kind of surprised on why we're doing this because last week was supposed to be the finale, but I kind of lied about that because there were some big political events that unfolded in Canada. And I know that we're kind of like we started off as a finance show, but then we're still doing finance and we're still doing stocks and investing kind of stuff. But we kind of also took on this niche of Canadian politics or US politics or just politics in general. So I thought we'd do a special bonus episode this week. Just don't get used to this because we're still probably going to be on break for the next few months or so. But this is just a special bonus episode right before the holidays as we delve right into the chaos that's happened in the Canadian Parliament. And we have a smaller crowd today, but I'm sure you guys will be just as happy with seeing our special host, our regular host, Dom, to present us this kind of story or to comment on this story. So why don't I first pass it off to Dominic for a brief intro before we jump into today's story.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, yeah, as a surprise, we're here for one more episode. Obviously, we couldn't resist it. There's too many really good current news in terms of the political sphere. And yeah, on to the main points. Sup, everyone. My name is Dominic. And if you haven't already, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. We also have a clips channel too, so definitely check that out. And without further ado, let's get started.
All right. So for today, we have one story and one story only, but it comes to you in multiple parts. So let's jump into it. So the first part is, of course, the bombshell news that happened just this past Monday, where Chrystia Freeland, the finance minister and deputy prime minister of Canada, is now the former finance minister and deputy prime minister for both those roles because she resigned her role in Trudeau's cabinet. And the reason why she resigned, well, there have been rumors for the past, I don't know, few weeks, months or so that she hasn't been very happy with the way that Trudeau is kind of executing the plan and the budget and all this stuff. And she was set to present this fall economic update, which, by the way, is super late. It usually comes out in like October or at the latest November, but it kept on getting pushed back, and it got pushed back to all the way to this Monday, where she was supposed to be the one that presented it as the finance minister. Now, it's pretty clear to everyone from a long time ago that she didn't want to present it because there was some bad news in it, right? So, and indeed, we'll talk about it in more detail later, but just as a highlight, I think the deficit that they reported was around $62 billion. Now, this is $22 billion higher than the $40 billion deficit that they projected in the 2024 budget, which was out in April. So just between April and now, they spent $22 billion more than they were supposed to. Like, whoops, right? So unfortunately, yeah, this was not a piece of good news, no matter how you slice it. So I can see why she didn't want to present it. And also, it didn't help that Trudeau's planning on spending more money with the GST holiday and the $250 check program, which, by the way, has been very poorly received by the Canadian public. We covered a survey last week where it was like, I don't know, over 50% of Canadians disapproved of both of those programs, the $250 checks and the GST holiday. So yeah, it was a big disaster. And then basically, after people like started analyzing it, apparently Trudeau had a Zoom meeting just like how we're doing right now, Dom. They had a Zoom meeting last Friday where Trudeau told Chrystia Freeland, hey, by the way, you're going to be fired and replaced by this guy named Mark Carney, who is the former Bank of Canada governor. So Mark Carney is going to replace you, but we still want you to go out there and present this fall economic update, which is terrible, and you're going to take the heat for it. And then after you take the heat for it, on my behalf, I'm going to fire you and replace you with someone else. So it's just like very disrespectful, objectively speaking. And I'm sure Chrystia felt this way as well. So yeah, she was like, F you, right? Like, look at where all the signs outside of Parliament are saying F Trudeau, right? So if you're going to do this, then F you, like you can't fire me, I quit. So she put out this letter, and it's just about the most scathing letter possible, while still being kind of professional. But yeah, basically she said that, I'm not going to read the whole letter, but basically at one point she called Trudeau's kind of politicking and the fiscal policies that Trudeau wants to push as being political gimmicks or costly political gimmicks. And yeah, this is just about as strong as a criticism as you can possibly get from someone who was formerly your most trusted lieutenant. So yeah, just kind of before we move on to the deeper weeds into the story, I just want to get your initial reactions, Dom, as to what's going on here, what you think of this letter, what you think of Chrystia Freeland resigning, just what you think of this situation in general.
So I think I figured out about this happening. Like, I don't even know if it was from you guys necessarily. It was from me watching the news or just stumbling upon it on my YouTube algorithm. I was like, holy shit. Oh my God, Chrystia Freeland resigned as the finance minister. I thought that was completely insane. And, in the entire context of everything is completely nuts. Even from someone on the inside is not completely agreeing with the ideologies necessary of Trudeau. So I think in hindsight, this is completely crazy and everything's gone completely out of hand. And I don't know. I'm not even sure if they're going to actually do a no confidence vote. If hopefully that like follows through. But at any rate, like it's completely insane what's going on. And on the fact of the matter, she doesn't even completely agree on, like what Trudeau's trying to do right now, like in terms of the GST, HST break and the $250 check. I personally am not a huge fan of it. So if someone who is, quote unquote, like one of your right-hand women are not completely aligned, then you have to like, it took them out of the fact for her to resign. And then on the topic of, I heard a lot of other parliamentary parties of like the Liberal Party are like promoting and switching around and like people are quitting and stuff. I think right now the Liberal Party's quite insane. And I don't know what's gonna happen, but we'll wait and see.
Yeah, totally. And just to put it into perspective for our American viewers who might not understand kind of the significance of this. So she was the deputy prime minister, right? Now, granted, the deputy prime minister is more so of a symbolic role. It doesn't really do anything in Canada. It's like a lot of the times it's mostly a vacant role, actually. Like not every prime minister has always appointed a deputy prime minister. But if you want to think about it as president and vice president, that's kind of the significance of the deputy prime minister, right? It's like the vice president. So she resigned from that as well. And technically the finance minister is a lower role, but it's more important, practically speaking. So this would be like if somehow like in America, Joe Biden was so terrible at his job that Kamala Harris was like, F you, I'm out. Like, not even Joe Biden is that bad, as unpopular and as bad of a president as he's been. It's not even like to that level, right? And also, by the way, there was an election, a by-election recently in BC, which Trudeau's party, the Liberals, lost by a very, very wide margin. It was like 66% conservatives and like 16% liberals, if I remember correctly. And this is just a latest in a long string of by-election losses that Trudeau has faced, right? So there was one in Montreal, which he lost to the Bloc Québécois. It was a pretty safe Liberal seat previously, and the Liberals won it by quite a large margin. in 2021, I believe. And the most significant, perhaps, is the Toronto St. Paul's by-election, which we covered here on this podcast. If you guys missed that and you guys want to see as it happened, you guys can go and watch that episode. But yeah, it was a riding in downtown Toronto, and that riding has been liberal for the past 30 years. Not even in 2011, where the Liberals had their worst showing in a really long time in 2011. They still won that seat, but not in 2024 when they had the by-election and then they lost it, right? So, yeah, basically, it's just a big disaster. And there's more and more details coming through about kind of the disagreements between Chrystia Freeland and Justin Trudeau. And, if you were to listen to Chrystia Freeland talk, it seems like she was super for everything that Trudeau has done. Obviously, like, we know it's for show, right? You have to kind of be, if you're a part of his cabinet, you have to kind of at least on the face support everything that he's done. It's pretty clear that the $250 check program, I think Chrystia kind of was against from the beginning, because if you look at if you just look at what happened afterwards, right? Like, some analysts have been kind of dissecting exactly what the merits are of the $250 check program and why it does not include seniors or people on disabilities. And the suggestion has been put out that it appears that maybe Trudeau just literally forgot about seniors, because, like, no matter which way you slice it, it doesn't make sense that you exclude seniors on the $250 checks, right? And this is what, like, people have been kind of hammering Trudeau on. And then it just seems like the Prime Minister's office and the Liberal Party in general didn't have a good explanation as to why they're giving out $250, but not include seniors or people on disabilities. And now this might not even happen at all, because, like, there's no way it gets through Parliament, because the NDP is like, if you don't include seniors and people on disability, we're not going to vote for it. And the Conservatives are not going to vote for it in the first place. So it's just this whole program seems like it's not thought out very well. And it does seem like it was Trudeau who wanted to do this $250 check program without consulting anyone. And then the reason why it didn't include seniors was quite simply because he forgot. Like, what do you think of that, Dom? What do you think of the $250 check program and the idea that Trudeau just simply forgot about seniors? And this is how, like, poorly this whole plan was thought out.
Yeah, maybe. I think the way I see it is, after all, he is human, and maybe a collection of all this negativity is getting to his head. Side tangent, but kind of related. So I'm, like, scrolling to, like, Instagram and TikTok or whatnot, and then I see these videos of him walking from, one building to a car, and people are like, "Screw you, Trudeau! Do you really want to, ruin it for all Canadians? Do you really want to put your ego forward before, the lives and people of Canadians?" And so, if someone's pretty much hearing that from a day-to-day basis, like, I think on a probability standpoint, you're probably going to make twice as many mistakes. And judging from, like, Trudeau's past and his history or whatnot, I'm not completely surprised that he actually forgot about seniors for the $250 check. But as the certified Prime Minister of Canada, I think it's your responsibility to be as responsible as possible and to remember these things, because seniors are part of the Canadian system and they definitely shouldn't be forgotten. But to the end, like, yeah, I cannot believe that he actually forgot senior peoples, and by this standard, it's totally unacceptable. And I I don't know, like, I hope for, like, a no confidence votes, like, it should happen. And on the side note too, I think we mentioned it as well, like, Jagmeet just not supporting the 250 unless it's supported with seniors. I don't think we should really condemn money printing. I want to preface that. I think we said that in previous episodes as well, but I think printing money is not good for the economy overall, just because, yeah, it may be good for a bit, but then eventually down the road, like, rate hikes are going to happen again, and then borrowing money is going to be more expensive, and then that's not really good for us. And then purchasing power and inflation goes up. So it's going to be a whirlwind of spiral. So it's better just to combat with the inflation economy and then just continue to drop rates rather than increasing them, because that's just a cycle that we don't want to go through again. But anyway, go ahead, Andy. Side tangent.
No, what you're saying totally makes sense, and I'm like even less so uh, concerned about the inflation. Like, yes, I know I've been talking about the bad effects of printing money for a long time, but it's only $250, right? I don't think it's gonna cause like inflation to go up that much. So that's actually not my main concern. My main concern is just how like insulting it is, right? Because think about it, like Canada has systemic problems now. If you look at the GDP per capita chart of Canada, it's gone down to like 2014 levels. Ironically, right before Trudeau took office, so it's gone back to like the Stephen Harper era. So we've basically gone nowhere under Trudeau for GDP per capita, and he has the audacity to even like think of this program where he thinks we're going to give people $250 and then people are just going to forget about their economic woes, and that's going to be like helpful about like of them helping pay their bills or whatever. Like $250 doesn't even cover a trip to Costco for a family these days, right? So I know like last time I went to Costco with my parents, just like between like the three of us, we spent over $300, right? And it's super easy to spend $300 like at Costco, right? Like you literally just buy a few things and it's over $300. So the fact that he thinks that a $250 check is going to solve people's problems, like the fact that he would even think that is just shows how disconnected he is with reality, and it just shows how badly we need an election, right? But yeah, moving on, I did want to talk about kind of Chrystia Freeland's role a little bit more, because she has been the finance minister for a long time, right? And yes, she wrote this scathing letter condemning Trudeau, and you know, people are saying that, oh, look how brave she is and stuff. But I'm coming from it from another angle. I'm saying like, good on her for, you know, finally calling out Trudeau, but she's been the finance minister for a long time, right? So it was under her watch that a lot of these bad economic policies has started. What kind of responsibilities do you think that Chrystia Freeland should bear for this this, you know, kind of disaster that Canada's in from an economic standpoint?
I think the vibe I'm getting is she's like, in the end of the day, in complete disagreement of like what he was doing in terms of like like the financial plans and policies and whatnot. But she was like a huge part of like making those major decisions, and for her to not, you know, put her right foot forward and make a stance and then try to fix things and, you know, be okay to disagree is like on her fault too. If she felt like something about some plan that Trudeau or the Liberal governments were trying to implement was not good for her, then she'd have, she would have like maybe put a foot forward. But she chose not to, and then this is the result of everything. And now she's kind of like, you know, rubbing, like taking dirt into the sand, so to speak. I don't know, but yeah, I think this whole situation is crazy, and we'll see if there's a no confidence vote. But only time will tell.
Yeah, I've been saying for a long time that I'm uh, like very I dislike Chrystia Freeland a lot ever since she made that Disney Plus comment. Do you remember that, Dominic? Where she suggested that we should cancel Disney Plus to like save if Canadians are financially struggling or something along those lines. I forget what the exact phrase was, but Dom, do you remember that?
I don't remember that, but to bring up one of our previous episodes, check it out. We were talking about this one cabinet member. I think it was during the summer when everyone's taking their summer vacations to not drive to their vacations or not properly enjoy their vacations. And I specifically remember that. And I just think Canadians want to save do that. Are you kidding me? So you're just gonna wreak out the fun out of all of us? Just, I think it's a bit excessive. Like, I think the government has a responsibility to look on the behalf of Canadians financially and economically. And yeah, I think it's ridiculous that you have to stoop to those levels in order for us to, combat with today's standards. But yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that was our honorable health minister, Mark Holland. And yeah, I mean, Holland is part of the problem too, right? But with regards to Chrystia Freeland, she's also been the one that is saying how it's I guess she's trying to use that as ammunition against Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the Conservatives. But she said at one point it was like Pierre is being unpatriotic to call Canada broken, because that's one of the key slogans that Pierre's been saying, right? Canada's broken and I'm going to fix it. But Chrystia Freeland was kind of coming from the side. It's like, hey, like, it's unpatriotic to call Canada broken. Canada's the greatest country in the world. Canada is not broken and has never been broken. And, I can see where she's coming from. But at the same time, for a lot of Canadians, if you go out there and you talk to people in real life and not just talk to your rich liberal friends, but actually talk to people on the streets, you would hear overwhelmingly that a lot of people feel that Canada is broken. And if you're implying that they're not being good Canadians, that they're not being patriotic, like hot-blooded Canadians, for saying that Canada's perfect and Canada's like doing great and Canada's not broken when it clearly is, then I think that rubs a lot of people the wrong way, right? And that certainly rubbed me the wrong way. And yeah, so overall, I'm happy that she's resigned and happy that she's gone and no longer in that role. But yeah, she's just the tip of the iceberg in terms of the real problem, right? And I've said time and again that nothing good or nothing positive is going to happen to Canada on an economic basis, which is the biggest concern right now in the country. Nothing good is going to happen to Canada economically as long as Trudeau is in charge, right? And even if he's not in charge, even if they replace him with another liberal leader, I don't think that's going to change either. So maybe I should rephrase that. Maybe I should say nothing good is going to happen to Canada until there is an election. So until then, we just have to wait, right? And talking about waiting for an election, it's kind of weird how Jagmeet Singh, the leader of the NDP, has been kind of propping up Trudeau for the longest time. And he went on this interview recently on why, like, he was asked point blank, like, if you dislike Trudeau that much, he goes on Twitter and he goes on like question period blasting Trudeau all the time. It's like, hey, if you dislike Trudeau so much, if you say that he's a weak leader, he's a failed leader, he's selling Canadians out to corporate interests, then why do you keep voting in confidence in this government, right? It doesn't make sense.
Exactly. Go ahead. I just want to say exactly. Keep going.
Yeah, no, but so people are speculating that it is because of his pension, that if he serves until the end of February, then he qualifies for his pension, right? Like, again, he's saying that, no, that's just like a conservative conspiracy theory. It's not true. But like, what else could it be, right? If that's not the case, then present an alternative explanation. If you're not just trying to hold out for your pension, then like, why are you doing what you're doing? It just doesn't make sense, right? He went on this interview where he was asked point blank, why would you not commit to a no confidence vote? And he responded, why would I box myself in? I'm like, bro, come on. like you yourself have made comments that he by the way, he said Trudeau must resign. So he's calling on Trudeau to resign, but he's like, at least at that point, we'll talk about an update to it later, but at that point, which was, I think this was either yesterday or the day before, he was still not committing to a no confidence vote. So this is Larry Brock, who's an MP from the Conservative side, who called out Jagmeet Singh for his kind of hypocrisy, basically, right? And implied that he's just sticking it in to get his pension. So that's kind of the development that I had as of yesterday. But right before the show started, actually, as of this morning, Singh apparently changed his mind, right? The public pressure was too high. And he said that the NDP government will indeed vote no confidence when the House is back in session. Now, he didn't commit to an exact date. And also, the House is not back in session till January 27th. So maybe he's not saying much here. We're still going to be stuck with the Trudeau Liberal government for another month or so. So take from that what you will. But yeah, basically, at least he's kind of taken a step forward in terms of calling for an election. So I just wanted to kind of get your opinion, Dom, about this whole Jagmeet Singh and the NDP kind of debacle, right? Like, why do you think do you think it's because of his pension that he's propping up Trudeau? What do you think the reason is? What do you think of like the NDP in general? Because people are saying that, you know, the NDP have totally tied their ship to Trudeau's ship now, and if Trudeau's ship is going to sink, the NDP is going to sink with it. Do you think that the voters will punish the NDP at the next election because of what Jagmeet Singh has done, which is to prop up Trudeau at every available opportunity until apparently now, but now the parliament is on break until next month, right? So what's your opinion on this whole NDP issue?
So first and foremost, I want to piggyback on something that you said in terms of Canada is broken. So as the certified, let's quote unquote chill guy or more casual in terms of like politics in Canada and the US, when I'm scrolling to YouTube or when I'm going through YouTube, right? I'll see like several videos of just why Canada is broken, and then like this creator makes it, and like reasons why you should move out of Canada, and like why Canada is such a humble and stuff. And if you see this on your algorithm, I'm sure not the only one. It's completely telling you the current state of Canada and how insanely bad it's been. I remember as a kid, it being so much better under. Okay, I don't want to seem too right, but like under Harper's government, everything was okay. Like I used to make trips to the States and stuff, and everything was good because our dollar was like good and stuff. But now it's completely out of control. And so piggyback back into the Jagmeet situation. I think at the end of the day, as humans, we're not perfect, right? We're very sinful beings and things like that. So I'm sure he just pretty much, bro, just wants to get the bag, basically, right? And if I had a pension, yeah, sure, I would want to wait for it, you know, in terms of, you know, out for your family and your well-being. But on the behalf of Canadians, it's pretty shitty, to be honest. They excuse the French, but I think he should just make a self-sacrifice. I think bro makes a lot of money as it is, and if he's just trying to pile in more money just because who doesn't like money, you know, like lust for greed, that's just like the sins, right? But yeah, I think it's gone completely ridiculous. He rather would take money for himself instead of save the people that have to make, you know, their weekly trips to the food bank. And I think that's so bad. And I don't think that's good for sure. And to piggyback once again, your update and everything about Jagmeet wanting the no confidence vote. I'm currently on the CBC website and think just a few messages here. I'm reading on my screen right over here. It's like, quote unquote, the Liberals don't deserve another chance. Singh wrote in an open letter on Friday. That's why the NDP will vote to bring down this government. That's pretty nuts. So, and then this CBC article was posted at 9:10 a.m. MST. Yeah, it's crazy all the circle of events that's happening, like in the last little bit, the whole Freeland situation resigning, and then this. I just hope come 2025, when I guess Parliament's opening, things will change. But for now, it's a complete mess. And I keep seeing stuff on my feed algorithm. So that tells a lot as a casual. But go ahead.
The Jagmeet Singh is saying that he has no confidence in Justin Trudeau. Well, I have no confidence in Jagmeet Singh. You know why? Because he's been saying that the Liberals don't deserve another chance since he ripped up that agreement. So yeah, sure, he ripped up the agreement, but then he taped it back together again immediately because as soon as he ripped up the agreement, he voted in confidence in Justin Trudeau. So yeah, the fact that he's saying that the Liberals have failed Canadians and the Liberals don't deserve another chance, that part is actually not new. He's been saying that since basically forever, and nothing has changed, right? So yeah, I mean, even with this update where he says that it's finally time to vote no confidence against Trudeau, he didn't commit to a time, right? Does that mean that he's going to do it January 27th? As soon as Parliament is back, or does that mean that he's gonna kind of drag it out until June, right? Who knows? That's possible, right? And there's other stuff that Trudeau can do. So I'm not a big expert in the procedural stuff that happens in the Canadian government, but I'm hearing that there's this possibility of prorogation, right? So prorogation, in case you guys don't know what that is, basically it's like putting the parliament on recess again when it's not supposed to. So basically just kind of taking a break and for like a few months. I think it goes up to like 3 months, and then you start a new session with a new throne speech, and then carry on if that, like, if the parliament allows you to carry on, right? Because I think the throne speech is also a confidence vote, so most likely Justin Trudeau will lose that if that happens. But then he can also drag it for another 3 months after January. So we'll see how like it goes. But yeah, it's basically just kind of a mess, and I'm not sure if what Jagmeet Singh said has any significance whatsoever. I'm glad that he's taking a new step forward finally in calling for an election, but yeah, again, it's a very like non-committal step, right? Because he didn't commit to like an exact timeline as to when things are going to happen. But yeah, let's move on to the last part of the story, which is what should Trudeau do, or what would Trudeau do? What should Trudeau do to avoid a disaster in the next election? So I've talked about the by-elections that have happened in St. Paul's and BC. I think then, by the way, this is the official results of the BC by-election. And yeah, I remember correctly, it was 66% in favor of the Conservatives and 16% of the vote went to the Liberals. And this is in comparison to the 2021 results. So look at the difference, right? So this was a Liberal seat before, where the Liberals won it with 39% of the vote against 36% for the Conservatives last time. So this is just like a night and day difference. And it just goes to show, and people will say the turnout was very low, right? So I think the turnout was like less than 20% of eligible voters voted in this by-election. But, you know, I think that goes to show how the Liberal kind of voter base is completely demoralized and deflated, right? People who may be inclined to vote Liberal decided to stay home. Like, I think that's exactly what happened, right? And the people who are inclined to vote Conservatives all showed up. And that's why you got such a big difference between the end result. But moving on, there was a new Abacus data poll that came out right after this Chrystia Freeland resigning news came out. And you can just see the results, right? If you model it out to an actual seat projection, the Conservatives under Pierre Poilievre would win 252 seats. So I think the threshold for a majority is 172. They would win 252. So this is like a super majority, right? And under this projection, the Liberals will go down to 10 seats. And that would be worse than what happened in 2011. And the Bloc Québécois will become the official opposition, which I don't think they've ever been the official opposition before. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this would be the first time in history that the Bloc would be the official opposition. So yeah, wild times. And I asked Grok to generate a picture of the Liberal Party as the Titanic sinking. And this is what it came up with. It's not 100% correct, but close enough. You know, it's not exactly the Liberal logo, but it's close enough. So that's kind of what's going on in terms of the polls. Now, granted, like, I know people are going to say, like, this is just one poll. You know, this might be an outlier. We're going to have to wait and see for the aggregate, right? The aggregate is also going down, by the way. So, like, it's not as bad as this Abacus poll for the aggregate. But again, the aggregate includes a lot of stuff that has a lot of polls that were taken like 2-3 weeks ago, right? And with this Chrystia Freeland news, I don't see how it could possibly help the Liberals. It would just make their polling numbers worse. So I think that once you see the majority of the post Chrystia Freeland polls roll in, then it's gonna be reflective of something like what we saw with the Abacus data polls. So yeah, just wanted to pass it off to you, Dom. What do you think of these polls in general? Do you think that this advocates poll is going to be what happens for the Liberals in the coming weeks or months. And the ultimate big question is, what would you do if you were Trudeau? And let's say, like, you can't say resign, right? Like, I know we all want him to resign, but like, let's take that option off the table. If you were Trudeau and you, for whatever reason, can't resign or don't want to, and you were forced to try and save the Liberal ship from sinking, if that is even possible, what would you do? Or do you think it's too late now and it's impossible?
The vast majority of people are going to vote for Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative governments. And that's not quite surprising to us Canadians, because I think Canadians in general are pretty much priced out of the current government. So I was scrolling through my feed, and then I was looking at Pierre and one of his speeches. I don't know if it's like algorithmically, if that's a word, biased towards like what I think, but so I was watching a video, and he was talking about a story about a waitress who works multiple jobs, and then she finally was in a position to take a break to work one less job, and then her car broke down, and then she had to take the job back, and she feels like she's being priced out in Canada, and she can barely do anything to afford anything, and she just wants her life back. And she was like insisting that Pierre gets voted, like, please, no more Trudeau government. And the moral of the story is that people are so desperate for change because of the current situation of the economy that it seems like they're pretty much trying to do desperate matters in order for the economy to switch. So looking at these polls, especially like 252 and the potential Bloc Québécois as the opposition switch, is pretty nuts. And to piggyback, I don't think that's ever happened before. I'm not sure. I don't follow politics as much as you guys, but I'm pretty sure opposition is either liberal or conservative. So I think this is quite insane. And yeah, overall, I think, like I mentioned before, only time will tell. But I think the whole situation of everything that's going right now is pretty insane. And the one thing I want to mention too is the Canadian to US dollar is like pretty barbaric right now. I don't relevant, but not relevant. I think the dollar like, I think it's at like 145, 144, and I honestly don't remember the last time it's ever been at that price. And if we want to do better for our economy, I think we need to switch the political sphere of like what's going on right now. So I'll say that.
Again, the second question: if you were Trudeau, what would you do? You can't resign.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, excuse me. I forgot that one. Yeah, so like judging from his personality, like he probably might not resign. I think he's watching one too many David Goggins videos, and he's ultra motivated to move past this. I think within reason, the only thing he could do is eliminate the 250 GST, get rid of the tax break, implement some building incentive to build more houses, and double down on like blocking the borders, like from people. I think it's from like like Ontario to Quebec City. Like people are like crossing the border insanely. Like block that off. Have an incentive to build more houses, like a quick plan or anything, just for like political ploy, and go from there. But I think best thing to do for him is to resign, just because of his previous experiences and how Canada's going. And I don't want the dollar going any worse. Like 145 is basically the difference between us and the euro. And please, just like some sort of change. Like if you were to go to the States right now for a trip to Trader Joe's, like if we were to just drive down to Buffalo, because I'm back in Toronto for the holidays, $100 tab at Trader Joe's is like $145 Canadian, and $45 Canadian is a significant amount of money that I could buy so many different. I could buy a freaking Google HDMI plug to do like a Google Play. Like, can you imagine that? Like, so I can stream Netflix with an older TV. Like, how insane is that? I just hope that change could happen pretty soon.
Yeah, I am old enough to remember a time when the Canadian dollar was worth more than the US dollar. I think this was during like 2008, 2009, during the financial crisis. There was a brief period of time where the Canadian dollar was actually worth more than the USD. So, yeah, I mean, look how far we've come since that, right? And Yeah, to answer my own question, I guess, what could Trudeau do besides resign to help fix the issue? I really can't even think of anything that he could possibly do. Like, again, going back to this picture of the Titanic, right? He's on the Titanic, and the most he can do is shuffle the deck chairs around the Titanic as it is sinking, right? So uh, today he's appointing like a new round of cabinet ministers because so many of his cabinet ministers have left. I think it's like 9, including Chrystia Freeland, who's either resigned recently or saying that they're not like running for re-election, and not like they're making up some cordial excuse. Or I think Chrystia Freeland's maybe the only one that's resigned in kind of anger. But still, like even by some of the excuses, you could sort of maybe tell that it's not fully like people would say that they're resigning because or they're not running again because of family issues. They want to spend more time with their family. And it's like, bro, if your government was doing well, and if Canada like is really loving your government, then maybe you would have a different response, right? That's just the thing. Like I feel like yes, people do want to spend more time with their family. That's always the go-to. But sometimes I feel like it's used as an excuse. And that's been kind of a thing that I've been hearing over and over again as to why like so many ministers have left Trudeau's cabinet. But yeah, anyways, Trudeau's appointing a bunch of new ministers, and some of them are like notable, but some of them are backbenchers who not too many people have heard of. So I think at this point he's just kind of just going through the list of people who still support him, and just promoting anyone based on loyalty, right? Which is exactly what people accuse Donald Trump of doing, right? It's like Trump is like going to appoint someone because they're loyal to him, and this is what Trudeau's doing right here at home in Canada as well. So yeah, it's just a disaster, and just think that again, he's shuffling the deck chairs on the Titanic, but there's not that much left he could do to really help fix the issue. Now, I put out this tweet back in, I think this was like a few days ago, but I was referencing another tweet that I couldn't find that, but you'll find it eventually if you look hard enough. I was just lazy, but I put out another tweet back in like, I think it was like September, I think, when it became clear that, you know, the Jagmeet Singh is ripping up the agreements, and then there's like the Trudeau ship is already starting to take on water, it's already starting to sink. And I'm hearing that the Conservatives are kind of committing to this idea of using all of their opposition days to try and take down the Trudeau government with a no confidence vote at every single opportunity. And then they keep failing, right? Because the NDP keeps voting in favor of Trudeau. And then I see a lot of people on Twitter, and it's funny how I've never met any of these people in real life, by the way, right? But I see a lot of people on Twitter who are super pro Trudeau and the Liberals, and they're like, "Ah, look at how much of a failure Pierre is because he just put out another no confidence vote and it failed again. Trudeau's the best." And I'm like, hey, by the way, I try to warn you guys that celebrating this is not the win that you think it is. So I've said, in retrospect, if we had a fall election, then the Conservatives will probably still win, and they would have won like I don't know 200 seats or so, and it's still a big win for the Conservatives. But the Liberals would get to save some face by pulling maybe 70 or so seats. It would be painful, but not an existential blow to the Liberals. They can still argue, well, it was bad, but not as bad as 2011. Now, well, for one, the NDP has tied their vote to Trudeau, and when Trudeau sings, he's going to take the NDP with him. And the voters are clearly seeing that Jagmeet Singh has been the linchpin this whole time, propping up the disaster of a government and allowing for the madness to continue. That is the Trudeau Liberals. And I believe that Singh will be punished at the polls too when the election finally happens. As for my prediction going forward, if Trudeau remains stubborn and decides to lead the Liberals into the next election, it's going to be even worse than what happened in 2011. The Liberals will most likely win less than 20 seats, and it's possible that the Liberals will be in the low teens come election times in terms of the polls, and maybe even sinking into the single digits if we officially enter a recession. So the Conservatives went from majority territory to September to supermajority territory now. And if Trudeau tries to drag this government on to October 2025, which seems very unlikely, by the way, because Jagmeet Singh is probably going to pull the plug, thankfully, in sometime in the spring. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe the Conservatives will be a hyper majority territory at that point. So if you're a Liberal or NDP supporter, don't you kind of wish that we had an election back in the fall? You're regretting being so arrogant now, aren't you? So this is what I said. A little bit of gloating. I'm sorry, but I think what I said is valid and true. And why don't I pass the mic to you, Dom, where you can, respond to what I said. And do you think that what I said makes sense, or do you have any comments on what I said, or just what are your thoughts in general?
You're quite a lucky person. You should place bets, more bets on Polymarket, because everything seems to be happening the way you like envisioned it here in this tweet. Because like, do you have an approximate timeline of like when you actually posted this? It doesn't mention like a time. I would assume like sometime in the fall maybe that you posted this.
So I posted this only a couple of days ago.
Oh, okay.
This comment, but I mentioned that I had I initially predicted all of this back in September. So I couldn't find that tweet, but it's there if you look hard enough. I was just lazy, but to kind of search for it. But yeah, I did predict a lot of what's going to happen or what has already happened. That the Trudeau Liberals were going to start dropping further in the polls. And honestly, I don't think it's that hard of a prediction to make, because to me, it was really clear, even back in September, that this liberal Trudeau liberal ship was sinking. But yeah, anyways, Dom, pass it back to you.
Yeah, like I think for the most part everything seems like pretty intact. Like I think from the get-go, I think maybe Trudeau doesn't want to be that one prime minister that's historically known for, like letting Canada down and sort of just resigning and giving up. Because I don't think obviously like his ego is like at the top end of things, and it doesn't seem like he wants to give up and he just wants to continue to go. So I have a feeling that maybe he won't resign just because that's just who he is as a person, and he just refuses to give up. But I think for me, the last comment stands out to me the most. Wouldn't you wish that there was an election in the fall? Yes, because inevitably, I think if this government continues, more terrible situations, terrible choices will happen, and more news articles will come up, like people leaving the cabinet, political ploys to get votes, and etc. I think his judgments isn't to par, and that people are going to continually going to disagree with the political ploys that he's trying to do. So in that sense, I think things are just going to get more and more worse. And I think at the end of the day, we just need a no confidence vote, change the political sphere, and then probably should have done it earlier. But now people are getting less confidence in Trudeau. So in terms of seats, he's actually jeopardizing his own back end and then his government's. But yeah, everything looks to be in check, and it's quite insane how everything's unfolding. And at the end of the day, it should have been in the fall. So or earlier.
Yeah, I totally agree that it should have been in the fall. And you know why it wasn't in the fall? It was because in retrospect, if you look at it, it was good for everyone, right? Even Liberal supporters. Because if you're a Liberal supporter, wouldn't you like to lose less seats, right? Like, which you would have lost less seats if the election was in the fall compared to now or in the future, unless you're betting on a turnaround. But as I said, like, I don't think that the Liberal poll numbers are going to turn around. Even if they get rid of Trudeau and put in a new leader, they're going to have less name recognition. And Pierre Poilievre has been building his name recognition for a long time now, right? So I don't think anything that they're going to do is going to work at this point. So if you're a Liberal supporter, then I think it would have been better for you as well if an election was in the fall. And of course, if you're a Conservative supporter, then you would like to be in charge, right? So obviously that's good as well. So literally a fall election was good for everybody except for two people. And those two people are Justin Trudeau because of his ego and Jagmeet Singh because of his pension. And it's just because of those two individuals that we're stuck in this present situation that we are today. Maybe if you don't have anything to add, let's move on to our final segment. I think I said the previous segment was the final segment, but I lied. There's just this one little tidbit at the end, which I know we've been talking about Canada's economic issues for the longest time. And it appears that the reason why we're so against Trudeau is solely because of economic reasons. And although that is one of the main points, of why we're against Trudeau, it's not the sole point, right? There are other issues that Canada is facing that I think that are not economics related or not directly economics related. Maybe it's indirectly related. That I think that the Trudeau government has really messed up really badly on, and why we need a more, I don't know, common sense government, right? To borrow a phrase from Pierre, to take charge and to fix things. So what do I mean by that, right? So let me read you this post by Stephen Punwalsi. I think he's like a journalist or like a political commentator, but he posted in Nazi occupied Canada. He's being facetious. It's not like, he's being a little hyperbolic there, but you'll see what he means when he says that. So he says, in Nazi occupied Canada, a person can move here, rob a liquor store, kill 4 people, including an infant, during their escape, and their punishment is, drum roll please, probation and a vague legal threat that their visa might not be renewed. So what is he talking about? So he's talking about this case of this person. I think his name is Manpreet Gill, who robbed an LCBO. LCBO is the liquor store in Ontario, the government-run liquor store. So he robbed an LCBO, and then he started running away from police in a vehicle, and then he went onto Highway 401 and caused the crash, and the crash killed 4 people, including an infant, and I think the infant's grandparents were among the 4 killed as well. So this is what the case was about, right? And his punishment, I don't remember if it says on this article, but I think his punishment was 5.5 months in jail, plus some probation, and also this is like the biggest kicker. And it's like, what are you guys doing? The authorities have warned that he may face immigration consequences, meaning that he may get deported, right? Because he's not a citizen. He's an immigrant. Like, he doesn't have permanent status, I don't think. But he may face immigration consequences, as in, he killed 4 people, maybe, and robbed a liquor store. Maybe we should not renew his visa. I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence about this one. Like, this is the state that Canada is in, right? Where somebody could rob a liquor store and kill 4 people, and then we're like afraid to deport this person because, I don't know, for whatever God knows why, we're not like trying to be seen as racist, or we're trying to be seen as like more inclusive, or I don't know why like this is even a discussion. He may face immigration consequences. What do you think about this story, Dom? Do you think that the kind of immigration system in Canada has kind of gotten out of control as well? Or like, what do you think of this case is? And he only received 5.5 months in jail and some probation, by the way. So yeah, if you're not going to deport him, at least put him in jail. But they're not really doing that either. They're doing that for 5.5 months. So what do you think of this story, Dom?
Yeah, okay, so first and foremost, I'm so sorry for the lives that were lost on that day, and I hope their family and friends are all good, everything's all right. But I think there's like a few points that come into my mind. First and foremost, I think a stricter criminal immigration process should be checked, but the theory also could be, we don't know his complete story, is that maybe he wasn't like a criminal felon, and then he in an act of desperation, had no choice but to do this because of the economic situation that we're experiencing in Canada, and it being super expensive. Like that could also be a possibility too as well. And I think on that front, his consequences for like his actions are completely lenient. I think maybe a little too lenient. He did take 4 lives after all, and he made really bad choices. So I don't know why he's just getting almost as if it's like a warning kind of thing. I think in hindsight, it should be a lot worse, if not jail time or deportation at least, because um, yeah, things are getting out of hand here. I think yeah, you got to find a way to you know seed out the rotten apple in the basket of fruits. Like I don't think the immigration process before was better, and hopefully they're trying to fix that and implement a better one. And I think dire consequences should happen for these incredibly terrible actions. Will I say, because I think robbing a store and killing people are really awful. But I think it just attests to how if we're in a better economic situations, people wouldn't quote unquote go for desperate times equals desperate measures. Like results and production, however you want to say it. But I think there really needs to be a change. It might even be coming to the point of people's safety, because if people are finding it harder to make money and then spend it and then try to like live a life of a Canadian how they should be living, then people will do incredibly ridiculous and stupid things, even if they're like inherently good people. And I think it shouldn't get to that point. And I hope we can change all of this soon for us Canadians, because as a result, we're gonna reap the like not benefits. We're gonna reap the badness of everything, because we could have been driving too. That could have been us. So it could be anyone. So it really sucks.
Yeah, and I'd said that this was maybe indirectly related to the economy, and I get what you're saying, Dom, that maybe this is like it is still related to the economic situation, right? When the economic situation downturns, you get more crime because people get more desperate. But then again, if you're just looking at this objectively, this is someone who robbed a liquor store and killed 4 people, right? Like there are people that are desperate out there that don't go ahead and do these types of things as well. So we're not talking about like a single mother who's trying to feed her like 4 kids who just stole a package of hot dogs from the grocery store or something, right? Like if it was that, then I could understand. But this is, I feel like, on a totally different level. And also, again, this is like, I'm not blaming immigrants, right? I'm an immigrant to Canada myself, but I'm saying that uh, I think both people on the left and the right can agree that there's issues in the immigration system here in Canada that needs reform, right? Whether it's background checks that needs to tighten up, or whether it's we just need to be more selective about the people that we're bringing in. I don't think that anyone is truly against that. And yeah, I think that just to kind of push back also on a lot of people say that the police is a provincial kind of responsibility, and why you're blaming Trudeau for it. Well, the criminal code and immigration policy, they're both federal responsibilities, right? So I don't I think that Trudeau does need to take some responsibility for creating this immigration crisis, and for not tightening up the criminal code to result in such a lenient sentence for this person who only received like a few months in jail and some probation for a crime that seems like it should result in more punishment on what he received, right? So yeah, it's just a whole kind of mess that we're having. So I don't want to. I just include that story because I didn't want our audience to get the sense that we're only criticizing Trudeau because of economic reasons. Again, that's the main one, but then there's also a whole series of issues that this country is facing, like immigration, like rising crime, like housing affordability. I guess that could be economy as well, but just unemployment, inflation, all this stuff, right? So I think that the Trudeau government has failed us on multiple aspects, not just those, but there's even more stuff that we don't have time to bring up today.
If we keep on this path, then things will continue to get worse, and of course we don't want that, right? So hopefully in the near future everything becomes better, and then give me a thumbs up if you want me to do the outro, because I can go ahead and do that right now. So okay, so we're good to go here. And with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed today's podcast. It was a little shorter, and we just wanted to get this story in because we felt like we need to address it, and it's relatively important. So on that note, leave a like, comments, and subscribe to this channel. Please check out our Clips channel too as well. That would mean a lot to us and support. If we don't make another episode, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and Happy New Year. So bye.
Have a good one.